Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari on My Education Treasure. Today, in my present video, I am going to discuss about 4 heterodox Indian schools of philosophy out of 6: Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, and Vaisheshik. Indian philosophy or Hindu philosophy is generally classified broadly into two: six Astic or Orthodox school or classical schools of Indian philosophy. The six classical schools Shad Darshan are Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Purv Mimamsa, and Uttar Mimamsa or Vedant. The three Gnostic or heterodox schools of Indian philosophy are Charvak, Jainism, and Buddhism. Almost all Indian schools of thought accepted the theory of karma and rebirth, and the ideal of moksha is conceived as liberation from the cycle of birth and deaths. Moksha, liberation, is considered the highest goal of human struggle. However, medieval philosophers like Vidyarayan classify Indian philosophy into 16 schools, where schools belonging to Saiv, Panini, and Aseswar thought are included with others, and the three Vedantic school Advait, Vishisht Advait, and Dvait are classified separately. In Vedic history, the distinction of the six orthodox school was current in the Gupta period or the golden age of Vedism. With the disappearance of Vaisheshik and Mimamsa, it was obsolete by the later Middle Ages when the various sub-schools of Vedant, Dvait, dualism, Advait, Vedant, not dualism, and others began to rise to prominence as the main division of religious philosophy. Nyaya survived into the 17th century as Navya Nyaya, Neo Nyaya, while Sankhya gradually lost its status as an independent school, its tenets absorbed into Yoga and Vedanta. The basic difference between the two branches of Hindu philosophy is said to be based on recognition of Vedas. Orthodox school recognize the authority of Vedas, while heterodox school don't believe in the authority of Vedas. Out of these 9 systems, 8 are atheistic as there is no place for God in them. Only Uttar Mimamsa, which is also called Vedanta, has place of God in it. Sankhya. Sankhya is the oldest of the orthodox philosophical system in Vedism put forward by Kapil. Sankhya philosophy provided the materialistic ontology for Nyaya and Vaisheshik, but there is very little original literature in Sankhya. It is generally believed that Sankhya philosophy is dualistic and not monistic because it has two entities, Purush, spirit, and Prakriti, nature, in it. Sankhya emphasizes the attainment of knowledge of the self by means of concentration and meditation. Sankhya holds that it is self knowledge that leads to liberation and not any exterior influence or agent. Sankhya forms the philosophic basis for yoga. In Sankhya, the necessity of God is not felt for epistemological clarity about the relationship between higher self, individual self, and the universe around us. Purush versus Prakriti. In the beginning, the philosophy was materialistic as it talked only about Prakriti, but later the element of Purush was added to it. While Purush is posited as the only sentient being ever existence and immaterial, Prakriti is said to be the material basis of this universe. Prakriti consists of varying levels of dispositions or categories of qualities: gun, activity, rajas, inactivity, tamas, and harmony, sattva. An imbalance in the intertwined relationship of these three dispositions causes the world to evolve from Prakriti. This evolution from Prakriti causes the creation of 23 constituents, including intellect, buddhi or mahat, ego, that is ahankar, and mind, that is manas. Sankhya theorizes the existence of our many living souls, Jivatma, who possesses consciousness but denies the existence of Ishwar or God. Sankhya holds that Purush, the eternal pure consciousness, due to ignorance, identifies itself with the products of Prakriti such as intellect, buddhi, or ego, ahankar. This results in endless transmigration and suffering. However, once the realization arises that Purush is distinct from Prakriti, the self is no longer subject to transmigration and absolute freedom Kaivalya arises. Originally, Sankhya was not theistic, but in confluence with yoga, it developed a theistic variant. Yoga. In Indian philosophy, yoga is the name of one of the six orthodox philosophical schools. The yoga presents a method of physical and mental discipline. Yoga presents a practical path for the realization of self. Yoga does not require belief in God, although such a belief is accepted as help in the initial stage of mental concentration and control of the mind. Yoga philosophical system is closely allied with the Sankhya school. The yoga school, as expounded by Patanjali, accepts the Sankhya psychology and metaphysics but is more theistic than the Sankhya, as evidenced by the addition of a divine entity to the Sankhya 23 elements of reality. The intimate relationship between Sankhya and Yoga is explained by Hendrik Zimmer. These two are regarded in India as twins, the two aspects of a single discipline. The foundational text of the Yoga school is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, who is regarded as the founder of the formal yoga philosophy. Hindu philosophy distinguishes seven major branches of yoga. Raj Yoga, also referred to as classical yoga, was a system of yoga codified by Patanjali and classified as one of the six astic schools of Hindu philosophy. Gyan Yoga, also called Buddhi Yoga, centered on the faculty of discernment and virtually identical with the spiritual path of Vedanta. Karma Yoga, in which the world of everyday works becomes the tool by which self is transcended. Bhakti Yoga, the path of devoted service to God. Tantra Yoga focused on the techniques and psychophysical teachings contained within a body of text called Tantra. Mantra Yoga, one of the most ancient forms of yoga in which the psychoacoustical properties of the spoken word are used to concentrate the mind. Hatha Yoga, a system of physical purification designed to reintegrate and rebalance the mind and body in preparation for Raj Yoga, first described by Yogi Swatanmarana. The benefits of yoga are overwhelming as countless individuals utilize it to achieve physical fitness and mental balance. In some cases, the elevated experience of yoga provides has aided drug addiction, and in many others provides participants with a peace of mind. Nyaya philosophy. Nyaya philosophy states that nothing is acceptable unless it is in accordance with reason and experience, scientific approach. Nyaya says that the world is real and the philosophy does not follow a monistic view. Nyaya philosophy relies on several pramans, that is, means of obtaining true knowledge, as its epistemology. The Nyaya school is based on Nyaya Sutra. They were written by Akaspat Gautam, probably in the 6th century BC. The most important contribution made by this school is its methodology. This methodology is based on a system of logic that has subsequently been adopted by the majority of Indian schools. Nevertheless, Nyaya was seen by its philosophers as more than logical in its own right. They believed that obtaining valid knowledge was the only way to gain release from suffering, and they took great pains to identify valid sources of knowledge and distinguish these from mere false opinions. According to Nyaya, there are exactly four sources of knowledge: perception, inference, comparison, and testimony. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to the video to motivate me, and share it for others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Knowledge obtained through each of these is either valid or invalid. Nyaya developed several criteria of validity. In this sense, Nyaya is probably the closest Indian equivalent to analytic philosophy. The later Nyayakins gave logical proof for the existence and uniqueness of Ishwar in response to Buddhism, which at that time was fundamentally non-theistic. An important later development in Nyaya was the Nyaya Vaisheshik philosophy. The classical Indian philosophy, Vaisheshik, was the physics of ancient time. It propounded the atomic theory. At one time, Vaisheshik was regarded as part of the Nyaya philosophy, since physics is part of science. But since physics is the most fundamental of all sciences, Vaisheshik was later separated from Nyaya and put forth as a separate philosophy. To make it short, Vaisheshik is a realistic and objective philosophy of the universe. The Vaisheshik school postulates an atomic pluralism in which all objects in the physical universe are reducible to certain types of atoms, and Brahm is regarded as the fundamental force that causes consciousness in these atoms. The school was founded by the sage Kanad, or Kanak Bhug, literally atom eater, around the 2nd century BC. The major ideas contained in the Vaisheshik Sutra are: there are 9 classes of realities, 4 classes of atoms: earth, water, light and air, space, akash, time, kal, direction, dik, infinity of soul, atma, mind, manas. Individual souls are eternal and pervade material body for a time. There are 7 categories padarth of experience: substance, quality, activity, generality, particularity, inherence, and non-existence. Although the Vaisheshik school developed independently from the Nyaya, the two eventually merged because of their closely related metaphysical theories. In its classical form, however, the Vaisheshik school differed from the Nyaya in one crucial aspect. Where Nyaya accepted 4 sources of valid knowledge, the Vaisheshik accepted only 2: perception and inference. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.